everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kari, and today I'm going to be doing my December TBR. So just a little caveat about my TBRs, I'm a huge mood reader. So today I'm going to talk about 10 books, but I'm absolutely not going to read all 10 of them. These are just the books that are on my radar and are the books that I'll be selecting from when they sound good to me throughout the month. But these are the 10 that I'm the most interested in reading this month. There's a selection of things that I just want to read and there's no connection to December or Christmas or anything like that. But there are also some books that are on this list because they're wintry, snowy vibes, Christmas vibes, whatever. And so I want to read them specifically this month for those reasons. But anyway, let's jump into the 10 books that I'm looking at for December. My first priority for December is to finish A Feast for Crows by George R.R. Martin. So this is the 4th book in the A Song of Ice and Fire or Game of Thrones book series. I'm loving this book so far, so I'm really looking forward to getting this finished in December. Obviously, I can't say too much about it because it's a 4th book in a series, but maybe you have read one or a couple of the first 3 books, and so you would know that the main POV characters are ones that we've seen in the TV show, for example, if you've seen the TV show A Game of Thrones. But in A Feast for Crows, we start getting POVs from characters that we've never followed before and some that we've never even heard of before, so it's really interesting to start getting more and more information about this world thanks to other POV characters. So it's been really fun to read this, and I'm definitely going to finish it this month. Next is a book that I don't have a physical copy of yet, but I'm going to get one, and that's No Exit by Taylor Adams. So this is a thriller that I've heard a lot of good things about, but I've been holding out reading it because I cannot find a copy of this book in the edition that I want, and the only edition that I can find that's available is this super ugly cover, and I absolutely hate it. I hate it so bad. And so I've put off buying this book for a really long time, like over a year I think I've put off buying this because I absolutely hate this cover, but I've realized I'm never going to find an available copy of the edition that I want, so I just need to bite the bullet and buy this ugly cover because I really want to read this book. And so this is a thriller, and I really try not to look too much into what thrillers are about because I feel like sometimes they put mild spoilers into the synopses of thrillers, and so I really only know the bare minimum about this book. But the reason that I'm finally going to bite the bullet and buy this ugly cover is because it's a super snowy story, and it's going to be the perfect book to read in December. In regards to the plot, the bare minimum that I do know about this book is that it's about a little girl who's been kidnapped and she's stuck in a van. But like I said, I'm pretty sure that this takes place during like a blizzard or a really bad snowstorm or something like that, and that has an integral role in the story. So anyway, I really want to get to this in December. It's high on my priority list despite this ugly cover. Next is another book that I don't have a copy of yet, but I'm going to get one, and it's The Winter People by Jennifer McMahon. So according to Goodreads, the first genre that this is in is horror. It's also put into thriller, so I'm not really sure, but the first one is horror. And obviously with a title like The Winter People, December is going to be the perfect month to read this. This takes place in Vermont, and I believe that there's 2 timelines. So the first timeline takes place in 1908, where a mom is found dead outside of her house just after the tragic death of her daughter. Then the second timeline takes place in present day, where a mom and 2 daughters live in this house where this woman was found dead outside of in 1908. So Ruthie, the main character, is 19 years old, and her mom insists that her and the daughters live off the grid, but then one day their mom disappears. And while the 2 daughters are looking for their mom, they find the journal of the woman who died in 1908 under the floorboards of their mom's bedroom. So there's going to be some connection between these 2 timelines in this house in wintry Vermont, and I would really like to get to this one in December. Next is a book that was just released, I think like maybe a month ago, and that's Have I Told You This Already by Lauren Graham. So Lauren Graham obviously is the actress who played Lorelai Gilmore in Gilmore Girls, my favorite show of all time. And last year I read her biography, Talking as Fast as I Can, which I really enjoyed. I especially enjoyed the audiobook because it felt like Lorelai was telling you the story. But anyway, like I said, her next book just came out and I'm really looking forward to reading this. I really don't even know too many details about what she talks about in this book, but I'm going to read it just because it's Lauren Graham. Next is a book that I read last year for the first time on Christmas Eve, and I think that I'm going to make that a little tradition on Christmas Eve to read this again, and it's J.R.R. Tolkien's Letters from Father Christmas. So basically when Tolkien was alive and his kids were young, he used to write letters to them as if he was Santa Claus. And so this is a collection of all the letters that he wrote to his kids over the years, and they're so cute and heartfelt, and it's just a great collection. Like I said, I think that this could be a really fun tradition for anyone to read every single year because it's a pretty quick read because it's just a lot of letters that are written to children, so you know they're not complicated, not super long, and there's lots of illustrations which are very well done. It's really fun to see the art of Tolkien in this. Also, his handwriting when he's writing as Santa is really unique, and it's just a beautiful coffee table book to have out at Christmas time. So anyway, I'm definitely going to read this on Christmas Eve to continue my tradition. Next is a book that I'm super embarrassed that I've never read before, and that's Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. So obviously this is a super famous classic, children's classic. Everybody loves this story. Apparently the movie adaptation is excellent, and even though I'm dying, absolutely dying to watch the adaptation of Little Women, I will not watch it. I refuse to watch it before I read the book. Everybody says that this is the perfect winter Christmassy read, so I really need to get to this year while it's the perfect time of the year to be reading it. And after I read this, I'm definitely going to be watching the movie because I've been dying to watch that since it came came out. When did it come out? In like 2019, 2020? I'm not sure. But ever since it came out, I've been dying to watch it. Just all the actors that are in it. It looks absolutely stunning. Next is a book that I'm sure you've heard about nonstop the last few months since it came out, and that's Babel by R.F. Kuang. I bought this book the day it came out, but since I've been reading the Game of Thrones books, which are all over 1,000 pages each, I didn't want to go from one long book to another unless it was the next Game of Thrones book. But I think after I finish A Feast for Crows, I'm going to wait to read A Dance with Dragons until January, so that means I can get to this big book. Because I am really looking forward to reading this. I've heard a lot of good things about it. And this is just right up my alley. Dark academia, translation, like I'm super into languages. If you don't know, I live in France, and so I do a lot of work in other languages because my native language is English, but I use French in my daily life since obviously I live in France. So translation is something that's very close to my heart, and I think I'm really gonna love this. The next option is a very Christmassy book. Obviously it has Christmas in the title, and that's Dickens at Christmas. And so this is just a collection of all the Christmas stories that Charles Dickens wrote, including A Christmas Carol is in here. And so this is a very thick book. I mean, it has A Christmas Carol, which, I mean, it's a short story, but it's not like a short story, if you know what I mean. A Christmas Carol would take up a pretty good portion of this, but then there's lots of truly short stories in here. So I'm not thinking I'm gonna read this thing cover to cover, but I think I might dip into it and read some short stories just to get into the Christmas spirit, you know? So in my October TBR, I was debating between 3 different Stephen King books to read, and I asked your guys' help to help me decide which one I should read, and The Shining by Stephen King was one of those 3 options. Now, while a lot of people did vote for me to read The Shining in October, a good few people said that they saw The Shining as a wintry book rather than a Halloween book. So I decided that I wanted to save The Shining for the winter, because apparently they get snowed in or something like that. I think that's what somebody said, that they get snowed in at this hotel. So seems logical that this would be a good December book. And the last book is another book that I don't have a copy of yet, but I'm gonna get it, and it's The Ice Dragon by George R.R. Martin. And so again, obviously George Martin is the author of the A Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones book series that I've been reading, and I've just been absolutely enthralled by the world of A Song of Ice and Fire, and I just want to read everything in connection with it. Now I will say that The Ice Dragon is not connected to the A Song of Ice and Fire book series. However, George Martin wrote this before that series, and obviously there's a dragon in it, there's ice in it, so there has to be some inspiration that he pulled from this story and put it into A Song of Ice and Fire. So it's because of this reason that I really want to read this and see if there are any connections between the Ice Dragon and A Song of Ice and Fire, and maybe if there's any hints of where the A Song of Ice and Fire book series is going to go based on what happens in the Ice Dragon. This is a pretty short book, and I think it's even considered like a young adult story, so it's definitely not going to take as much time to read as a book from the A Song of Ice and Fire series, which are, like I said before, over 1,000 pages each. So yeah, those are the 10 books that I'm going to be pulling from to read in the month of December. If you have any other recommendations of excellent books to read in December, especially if they're thriller wintry books, definitely let me know in the comments. I would love to read some other wintry thriller books. For example, I've been debating if I want to read One by One by Ruth Ware, but I've seen such mixed reviews about that book that I don't know. I don't know if I want to commit to reading that. So if you've read that, let me know in the comments what you thought about it, if you think that I should make the plunge or not. And if you just have any other recommendations for good wintry books, let me know. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. I would love to have you back, and I'll talk to you again next time. Bye!